Afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Today, we are going to be talking about connecting your APIs with MuleSoft and Salesforce Identity. It's going to be awesome. It could be a train wreck. We're not sure. There's an overly complicated demo. Lots of platforms, lots of moving parts. We're going to try and get through it. We're going to try and build some stuff live on stage. It's going to be fun. I'm definitely nervous. Ashley is cool and confident. I guess that was my forward-looking statement. My lawyers want me to say, don't make purchasing decisions based upon this crazy demo. We are talking about some stuff here that's pretty bleeding edge. Some of the team members who built this are right here in the room, and they're excited to see it work. I'm excited to see it work, but don't make purchasing decisions based upon stuff that isn't quite available yet. This is stuff we've got out in preview, though, so that if the end of it you want to give it a try, we love customers giving it a try. So, yeah. Legal stuff. Read it. So my name's Chuck Mortimer. My teams work on how we protect our customers. So when you log in at login.salesforce.com, or maybe at your corporate IDP, and that sends us a fancy single sign-on message, or we step in and ask you to punch in a code, or maybe you use login with Authenticator, or two-factor authentication, risk-based auth. We encrypt stuff. We do the health check. Basically, if it's features related to how we understand who the users are using the platform and how we protect them on the platform, that's kind of what my teams work on. I'm a product manager. So.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashley. I work on platform services and identity at MuleSoft. So unlike Chuck, I don't have a Twitter account. I'm more of an Instagram guy. So if you guys are interested in hearing me play acoustic covers of hip hop songs, I'll let the handle. Yeah. I'll let you guys know after.
So apparently I'm dating myself with Twitter. Yeah. So we've got the Soma hipster here from the fancy startup and the old guy who's still on Twitter apparently. Okay.
Anyway, let's talk about MuleSoft. So MuleSoft is an enterprise platform for APIs and integrations. So we enable our customers to connect their applications, data, and devices. One of the key business outcomes that we drive for our customers is digital transformation. We do this through design tooling, whereby we make it very easy for our customers to unlock data which could reside in maybe spread across multiple SaaS applications, or it could reside in on-premise servers. Another key business outcome that we drive is increased IT operational efficiency. Let's take an example to understand that better. Say, for example, you're the central IT team, and your job is to cater to the data needs of all team members across your organization. And say, for example, the order fulfillment team comes to you with a request. Hey, I want to know what's the status of an order for a specific customer. Now, if you take an API-led approach, where you try to think about reuse rather than build a custom one-off implementation, you're setting up your organization for success. Let's understand that better. Say, for example, 2 months down the road, the marketing team comes to you with the same requirement. They want to send promotional emails based on the order status of these customers. So now, instead of building the same project from scratch, you reuse the API that you already built for the order fulfillment team and make that available to the marketing team. We'll be going through all the different components of the platform in the following demos, but before that, Chuck will tell you more about Salesforce Identity and how MuleSoft and Salesforce work together.
Okay, so identity. Identity is kind of a weird, abstract concept. What I think we should key off of here is something Ashley was just saying. It just kind of came into my mind, but he was talking about using APIs to connect data and services to devices, okay? The way to think about identity is what we're doing at this layer of the system is connecting to people, okay? So if you think about fundamentally what we're doing in CRM processes, you're figuring out how you build connections to your customers, how you build connections to your partners, how you build connections to your employees so they can do a better job of delighting your customers and partners. So identity is really how you recognize those customers, those partners, those employees in digital channels. So think about your traditional CRM processes. You may have had sales reps in meetings talking to customers, figuring out who they were and typing information into a CRM database. Or you may have a CSR in a call center. They call in, we screen pop it for you, somebody types something into a CRM database. Well, the way that people now interact online is that you have to recognize your customer in these digital channels. So as they're logging into your website, that's an opportunity to recognize your customer and deliver upon your brand promise of delighting that customer. As they're logging into your mobile app, they're identifying themselves. As they're using your APIs, and we're trying to connect your customer to all the rich data and services that you have in your organization through the MuleSoft platform, we're connecting those people and recognizing those people. So identity is really a series of technologies that we have built into the Salesforce platform, either as Salesforce Identity, something you can just use as a product to do this, or built into communities, because all of your communities licenses just have these capabilities built in, or built into the platform, because all of your platform and sales and service licenses have these fancy identity capabilities built in. It allows you to use these technologies to register users, authenticate users, provide single sign-on, provide identity to your mobile applications, your API applications, et cetera. Lets you recognize these customers and get the people connected with all the rich API stuff on the back end. So that's why we brought these two things together. We were super excited about the MuleSoft acquisition because it opens up this huge new opportunity for people on the Salesforce platform, employees, customers, partners, to get connected to new assets that you may have locked up in your enterprise and you may want to unlock. So what we've fundamentally done here, and Ashley's then going to tell you a bit about how it works, but what we've fundamentally done is allowed you to use the fact that you are logged into Salesforce, either in Lightning, Classic, or in a community, to call MuleSoft APIs. Those same sessions, those same tokens that we use in Salesforce can now be used to call those APIs. So you can use our OAuth services, we can issue tokens, and we can go talk to those APIs, which allows you to get at all the cool stuff that's being built on the API network through MuleSoft. It allows you to take assets that you may have buried in the enterprise and get those exposed through MuleSoft in a secure way to build mobile apps against those. It could even let you build an API network. You can take and monetize those that data and those services through MuleSoft. They have a portal to do it, and we've got a community to help you register users, discover users, support those users, and get them tied back into your CRM processes. So really excited about bringing these two together. How did we do it?
Yeah, so there's two basic flows that we support here. The first flow that you see is that of single sign-on. So with this integration, you can use your Salesforce credentials to log into any point platform. Both Salesforce as well as MuleSoft support OpenID Connect as well as SAML 2.0, which are industry-wide accepted protocols for single sign-on. The second flow that you see on your right is that of an API provider, an API consumer, and how an OAuth provider fits into that picture. So on the right-hand side, you see an API that's hosted on MuleSoft. So the first thing you want to do is you want to front that API with an API gateway. Now what this API gateway does is that it controls access to your API through application of policies. Some examples of policies are rate limiting, where you can control the number of calls you can make to your API per unit of time. Another example is token enforcement, where you need a validated access token in order to access the resource protected by your API gateway. Now, once you have this API gateway, you need to expose this or publish it to your API portal. API portal is a space where API consumers discover and request access to your API endpoint. So here, the API consumer requests API access, and that triggers a flow which creates a connected app inside Salesforce. Now, this connected app has the access to the API, to the resource protected by the API endpoint. So now the API consumer uses the client ID, client secret of the connected application, makes a call out to the API gateway. The API gateway intercepts that call, tries to engage in an OAuth flow, hits the introspection endpoint of Salesforce, and makes sure that it's a validated token. Now, once the gateway figures out that it's a validated token, it allows access to the API endpoint. Moving over to you, Chuck. Why don't you just show us how that all works in the platform?
I don't think they came here to listen to us chit-chat
Yeah,
about this, did they?
That's a good assumption.
Okay, so that was we're talking through architecture diagrams. Yeah. Sometimes I even get confused when I look at those things. So we are going to attempt to, first of all, show you what we're talking about here. So we're going to learn how to use PowerPoint is the first thing that we're going to do, because that is not my specialty. Yep. Yay, okay, cool. Something I'm comfortable with, Salesforce. Okay, so we're going to attempt to walk you through a nice scenario here of how you might use this and like what the experience might look like. And then we're going to get really crazy and try and build it almost from scratch. Okay, so we've got two personas here. On one side, we've got the Lightning experience, and that is sort of my admin persona. But I'm going to start out in a different browser. I'm going to start out here in a community. Okay, this is a pretty vanilla community. We just spun up the Napili template. We're using a new feature here, though, something we call mobile-first identity. This lets you do passwordless login. So we've declaratively set up our community. We just punched in a few things to brand it. We just really quickly and changed it to use our new kind of interview-style login process. So instead of just asking the user what their username and password is, we can ask the user who they are, and instead of a username, it might be, in this case, an email address or a phone number, and then we can choose how we want to log them in. So it's no longer just passwords. We can send them to social providers, single sign-on providers, your partner's single sign-on provider. We can let them use fancy security tokens, and we've got a new feature to let them use their telephones. So for example, here, I'm going to get logged in as our Northern Trust customer, and I'm really curious about what's been going on with my order. I ordered something online, and so I just punch in my telephone number, and the platform says, hey, I just sent you a code. So you can't see it because my phone is very small, but you can trust me and say that I just got a code that says 73424 is how I verify myself. So I'm going to verify myself there. No passwords, nothing to forget. All I needed was my telephone number, and I got signed in. You can even sign up customers like that. You can now declaratively set up a form, ask the customer what their telephone number is, send them a text, get them in your community, and get them on with doing business with you and connecting with you. That's the whole point. Okay. Now I'm logged in, and I'm going snowboarding, because that's what I love to do. And I've got a few gear orders here with Northern Trust. We'll blow that up a bit. And I'm really wondering where my new Jones split board is, because I want to go ski up a mountain and then snowboard down it. And, well, I guess I'm going to file a case, which is fun, but hey, where's my split board? I'm Jonesin, pun intended. All right, we're going to submit this, and I submitted a case. Okay, I got to fill out a case. I'm okay with that. Back here, my admin probably would have popped this in console, but I'd just reload this on the contact page, and you'll notice my case has been created, and I can see, hey, where's my split board? Well, I can look at my orders here, and we've got our gear order object, just a custom object deployed in Salesforce, but all the information about this has been deployed in a web service that we have back on premise, okay? And, well, technically it's in Heroku because we don't really have any on-premise here at Salesforce to play with, but we're faking it. So we got a web service that stood up through Heroku, and we've wired up the two platforms now to use the fact that I'm logged into Salesforce. It's going to send a web service call over to the MuleSoft platform, which is going to protect it with my Salesforce identity, pull that shipping information back here, and let it do it. And we've made it even easier. Oops, if I go back. I can just drill into this case, and we used Lightning to just drop a quick action onto this, and we'll fire up a flow, and I'll say, hey, where's order 5? And I can hit next, and it's going to send a message over, and if the demo gods are with us, hey, it's shipped. So I could reply back to my customer, this information has shipped. Okay? Pretty straightforward. Now we're going to decompose how we did that. Okay? So the first thing is let's take a look at our web service. So Ashley earlier told you about the ability to do single sign-on. Well, notice right here in the app launcher, we can now do single sign-on between all sorts of different platforms. But let's just jump right over to MuleSoft. So having been logged in with Salesforce, I can SSO over and land in the AnyPoint platform. And if the demo gods are with us, this will load. Am I on the presenter network? I'm going to switch to presenter quick. Sorry, looks like our network is not very good. Please. Ashley, tap dance.
Need music.
So what is supposed to be happening is I'm supposed to have some sort of network connection. We'll go back to Dreamforce 18. Everybody turn off your phones. There's literally a post-it here that says, get on the presenter network. We will, If only Macs shipped with Ethernet ports. Okay. Yeah. All right, we're going to try one more time here. Yay. OK, we're back. So we have landed in the Anypoint platform. And now what we want to do is show you like a bit about this web service. So here's our demo service. We've got order status. It's a Heroku app. I can punch in my order status of 1, and I get a status. I get my order status of 2, and this one's shipped. Okay? Pretty simple demo application. We'll even blow that up for you. Some JSON. Fantastic. OK, so in Anypoint, let's first show them how we like define an application. So we're going to head over here to Exchange, and hopefully the network gods will play along with our demo. This is going to be a long day.
I can start talking about Exchange.
Yeah, why don't you talk about Exchange?
Yeah, so Exchange is a place where you can search and discover reusable assets in Anypoint platform. So when you talk about assets, they could be APIs, they could be pre-built integration applications, or we have this product called connectors as well. To tell you a little bit of connectors, connectors are products that wrap APIs of underlying systems so that developers need not go through pages of API documentation to interact with these underlying systems. Rather than that, they can just use connectors to drag and drop into an integration flow. And just through point and click use of the application, they can interact with underlying systems. And we don't have internet.
Why don't you tell them about API Manager?
So yeah, so API Manager is a product where we deploy these gateways. So we talked about that in the architecture before. So once you deploy the gateways, we have tons of out-of-the-box policies that you can apply on your gateway. We have also capability in the platform to build your own custom policy that you can apply on your API gateway. So the way the product works is you build, and we have capability in the platform called API Designer as well, where you design your API applications. You push them to the Exchange so that everyone across your organization can search and discover those assets. And then once you discover, you can pull it back into your API Manager product, where you can manage these applications through application of policies. Through the API Manager, you can also deploy your applications. So you can deploy it on-premise, or you can deploy it on the cloud.
I think we may be having a fundamental problem connecting to Anypoint at the moment. So. OK, so we're going to wing it and see what we can do from here. Let me show you a bit about what we did on the getting this set up within Salesforce, because that's a good place to take the talk track, given things aren't quite working. So having deployed the application through the Anypoint platform and protecting it with the API Manager, we were able to put a policy on it. Okay? Now in Salesforce, what we did is a couple of things. First of all, we created something called a named credential. Okay? Named credentials are a way that you can take and have the platform manage authentication for you, so that your developers aren't handling credentials, other things that are kind of toxic to have lying around in code or in your version control systems. So you can declare a URL and then say, this is how I authenticate to this URL. Okay? So if we go into order status, let's go take a look at this. We can drill into order status. And order status, we've got the Anypoint URL where it's deployed. Okay? And then we've said that it uses OAuth 2. And I want these particular scopes, and I've been authenticated. Let me actually edit this, and you'll see a few different options. So you've got your URL. There's different ways you can authenticate people. You can either just have it be anonymous. Maybe there's a different way that you protect this, IP restrictions, or you could use per user authentication. Each individual user in the platform can use their own identity to interact with this service. Or you can use something called a named principal. This would really be for like a service user. You want to use one user to connect to this API and pull everything through. Okay? And then there's different ways you can authenticate the user. You can use certificates. So we use something called mutual TLS. So you can have a client certificate within Salesforce, and on your servers on the back end, you might have only accept certificates from certain people or from Salesforce. Or you can use basic authentication, send a username and password, or you can use OAuth. And you don't have to write any of the OAuth stuff because this framework knows how to do it. So if you have any OAuth protected service, whether that's MuleSoft, in this case with Salesforce running the OAuth endpoint, or maybe you have Ping Federate or some other sophisticated identity and access management system back in your enterprise, you can use those OAuth services along with named credentials. Okay? So we've authenticated this user with named credentials, and that allows us to call out to it. The other thing that we did is we generated a client for this. So if you're not familiar with this, this is something called external services. External services allow us to describe web service endpoints in Salesforce and then automatically generate code for them. Okay? So what we did here with our order status service is I could edit this. We could walk through, but basically the quick paraphrase of it is I can give it a name and a schema. So if I copy this schema out and we put it in a new document, you can see that it's just some JSON that describes the web service. Okay? And that's all that the platform really needs in order to generate code for you to talk to this web service. So far, what we've done is we had a web service. MuleSoft, if we were able to show you quickly, protected with the API manager entirely declaratively. We just went into a interface and set up a policy. And then we came back here and we set up a named credential in order to authenticate that. And we used external services in order to generate code in order to talk to that. All declarative so far. Finally, what happens is that spits out something known as a action that you can use in Flow. So the result of us generating that flow, or of generating that code and with external services, spit out an action we can use and just drag out here onto the palette. So you'll see there is the order service action. What this does basically is it gives us a way in Flow to call that Mule protected web service, have all of the authentication managed, and we can call back and get that information out of our shipping thing. So completely declaratively, what we were able to do is protect that service, authenticate to that service, generate code for that service, generate a flow component for this service, build our flow, and then add that button to the case detail page so we could add it in. And now, well, it's really quick and simple for you to say, hey, maybe I want to go a step further and turn over self-service. So you could just go into App Builder, and you could spell it right. And if you go into App Builder, we can go and look at, we're going to go into the Community Builder. And if we go to All Communities, we can dive into our NTO Builder. And here we have the drag and drop builder for what our community looks like. And you'll notice that one of the components here is a flow component. So we can drag a flow component out onto this page. Okay? And we could change our flow to be our order status flow. Here's our order status lookup. And we will publish this. And some hamsters are running on a wheel. And with any luck, if we go back to home and then maybe reload a couple times, this will get published out to the runtime. And look, there's our order status lookup. And now we have self-service. So if we go here and look up our order status and click Next, you'll see the customer now doesn't even have to file a case. We're able to declaratively get that order status capability all the way out of the enterprise and exposed here to my customer portal. Pretty cool. And if the platform works, yeah, thanks. Now what we're going to say is that's not good enough because nobody uses websites anymore. Everybody uses their telephone, right?
Yep.
Okay. So we are going to pray that Anypoint is playing along with us. And we are going to actually try and protect this. So first, let's do something that we were going to do earlier, which is if we can get into access management. We can. Things seem to be moving nice and snappy now. Let's show how we wired the platforms together. So the first thing that you needed to do was configure this. Ashley, you want to talk a bit about this page?
Yes. So this is where you let any point platform know how to talk to Salesforce in terms of the OAuth flow. So here on the first two sections, you figure out where to make the client registration call into Salesforce. Now, as you go down the page, you'll see...
Well, so this is where we send a registration message. This one, I'm going to pause a second and say, this is the special magic token you need, okay? So in order to get into this pilot, you got to actually call Salesforce. And Itzik in the back there, he will hand whittle you one of these tokens. He types them in himself. It's a very scalable process. But what this does is it lets us understand who's calling, basically, and whether or not you have rights to create these clients, okay? We're going to make this self-service in spring release. In the winter release that's just rolling out in this October, though, file a ticket with support. We'll see if you're a good fit for trying this out, and we'll let you into try it out. And then once you register, what do you need to do with those tokens?
You need to introspect them. So this is where any point platform, where you configure where to go to Salesforce in order to see if a token is valid or not. That's what we call the introspection endpoint. So that's where you see the token introspection endpoint as well as the token URL.
Okay, so now that we've totally reorganized how we were going to do this, let's head over to API Manager. And you talked a bit about this, but this is fundamentally where we're protecting APIs?
Yes, this is where you apply policies and see your gateways and proxies running.
Okay, so I'm going to manage an API from Exchange. Exchange, once again, that directory of services that you have deployed in your organization. We'll see it again in a second. But we're going to try and protect an application. So remember we had this order status API. We're just going to deploy another one of these. We're going to say we have, no, that's not what I want to do. We're going to say order status, and it finds it right from Exchange because we've deployed it in any point. And we're going to say use version 1, and we're going to go really quick. And we're going to deploy this with a proxy. And I'm going to say, here's my implementation. This is where I actually want you to talk on the back end. Now, Mule can host all of these for you. So if you want to build your web service on this, you can go into something called Runtime Manager and upload your own web services. In this case, we're just protecting one that we already have built. Okay. And I'm going to say run this with Mule 4, and then if we look in some advanced options, we could deploy with HTTP or HTTPS. I'm just going to take the fast route and deploy with HTTP right now. And then what we would also want to do is, do you want to talk a bit about policies?
Yep, so this is where you, for example, in this case, if you want to protect your API endpoint with an OAuth flow, you want to apply a token enforcement policy.
So I'm going to select the OpenID Connect access token enforcement policy.
Yes, and what that does is now in order to access that specific API endpoint, you need an access token, and that access token is generated from Salesforce.
Okay, so just by filling in those URLs in client identity management and putting this policy in place, we're going to be able to protect this service?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, that's awesome. So I'm going to apply this policy because I love applying policy, and head over to settings. And I'm going to say we're going to deploy this on 4x, and we're going to call this our order status super mobile. Okay, it doesn't look like that name is taken. Weird. Okay. And we'll hit deploy. And as you can see, we have another hamster wheel here. Ashley and his hipsters that are in Instagram are hand whittling API gateways or something right now. We're going to skip this part because no one likes watching code deploy. Let's now switch over to our mobile application. Okay, so this is the mobile application that we just spun up. So I ran Force iOS Create. If you're not familiar with Force iOS Create, this is the mobile SDK. It'll spin up a mobile application that will talk to Salesforce immediately out of the box. And what this does is it's actually going to act like an OAuth client. And we're going to see how we can build a mobile app to expose that order status through MuleSoft using the login from a community right through this mobile app, and how quick and almost simple this is. This is definitely harder than using Flow Builder. We're now kind of into programmatic dev here, but pretty cool. So let's build the app, make sure it builds. Okay, it's a brand new app. And it comes up, and I don't think it's going to be quite what we want because it's just sort of pointing at the Salesforce login page. And what we really want to do is point it at our community. Okay? So I'm going to stop this. So the first thing that you want to do in order to get this done is, and we'll delete this app because we didn't need it pointing at login. The first thing that you want to do is just go into the application that gets spun up, and there's something called a plist. Okay? And this plist, I'm just going to point it at our community, just the community URL, and we're just going to tell it about the community URL and hit play, and it's going to rebuild the app, and watch what happens. Okay. Immediately, that declaratively built login page that is designed to register users or log people in using their mobile app or their telephone is deployed as a mobile app. You didn't have to do any special engineering or anything like that. We take what is deployed on the web and make it work seamlessly here inside of the mobile app. But now there's a few other things that we need to do to this app. Okay? The first is we're going to need to get this app an identity. Okay? So let's head back to Exchange now, and we're going to, what are we going to do, Ashley?
You get the client ID. We're going to request access from the API endpoint.
So we're going to now finally get a chance to look at Exchange.
Yep.
Here's the list of everything that Ashley told you about before. And what's this right here, Northern Trail Outfitters?
That's the API assets specific to that organization that you just created.
Okay, so here's just my stuff.
Yep.
So there's this big catalog of stuff that MuleSoft curates that you can reuse.
Yes.
Or you have your own view of this here. You can even do public portals. Check out the public portal. Ashley, what's this for?
So this is when you expose your API endpoints to the public world. So anyone without an identity can actually access this page.
Yeah, or they can actually use their Salesforce identity, so you can wire this up to your community. So if you're trying to build an API network and unlock some of the value you have in your organization as part of a new digital strategy, you can register users and have them sign into the community and get SSO over into this API portal.
And this is very valid for a partner use case. So for example, you don't want to invite your partners into your organization. So you can just expose your APIs via public portals so they can just find and discover these APIs and request access without having to be a member of your organization.
So now as the mobile developer, in my current role,
yes.
I'm in here and this order status thing looks just like what I want, because I want to get the orders that I have exposed through my mobile app, and I can look at the documentation here. I can see that this order status resource is exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm going to request access. Okay. Now remember when Ashley told you about, hey, there's this way to register applications? Well, if you're familiar with Salesforce, we have this framework called Connected Applications. It's the way we describe API clients. Now MuleSoft can create those API clients through this portal. Okay. So I can say create a new application, and we will call this Super Mobile, because why not? And you could give it a description, that'd probably be a good idea, and you can fill out some cool OAuth stuff here. And then I'm going to give this a callback URL. Basically what we are doing here is teaching MuleSoft about the fact that I cannot type and talk at the same time. And I want services, OAuth2, success. Please don't let have be any typos. Okay, and we're basically saying, hey, we'd like to register an application. So that's going to create a new app. So that just reached out to Salesforce, used that magic token that ITSIC created for you, and created a connected app in your Salesforce org. And now we're going to say, and I'd like application or access to the live service, not the one we just deployed because we were in a hurry here, and I'm going to request API access. You could even access a tier. You want to tell them about SLA tiers real quick?
Yeah, so we have different, along with policies, you can even have different SLA tiers on your APIs that you host on API Manager.
So like me, you might give like really bad service to, but like a real customer, you might give them that gold level. Yeah, okay. So now I've got a client, and what we're going to do is we're going to teach our mobile app how to become this client. And this is really simple. If we head back to this, we're going to go into the app delegate, and we're going to use that same callback URL or redirect URI. This is where we know protocol messages are going to be listened to by this app. And then we're going to get the app identifier here, the client ID. And I'm just going to copy that out and paste this here. And now my app is identified by this ID, and both the platforms will recognize it, and it knows where to listen for protocol messages. And then I'm going to just say I want these particular scopes, and that, I think, should be enough to get a build and get us logged in with our particular mobile app. So I'm going to build again, And then we'll do the final tweaking to actually then connect it to MuleSoft. So it'd be cool if I could actually log into this thing. Well, let's try. So with that same identity I used as my community user, also my telephone number. Please don't call me, at least during the presentation. We can pull this up, and I just got another code. Imagine that, 37164. So I'm going to type in 37164 and hit verify and cross my fingers. And here's our OAuth approval screen, fully branded for Northern Trail. You didn't have to do anything extra. This was declarative. You can even suppress this if you don't want to ask users for permission. But in this case, we're just going to hit allow. And boom, the mobile SDK is now pulling back contacts within my org. This is great because as a mobile developer, I've gotten past all of the stuff that I don't like working on. Security, tokens, token storage, authenticating users. I'm now interacting with an API. As a mobile developer, this is what I want to do because I want to build the cool views and talk to the cool services to deliver value to my customers. So we've gotten past the hard part, which is logging in. Now, we're going to use this login in order to talk to the service on the back end. Okay, so with that, we're then going to jump into the final thing here, which is our root view controller. And it's kind of weird to be showing contacts here because what I really want is my gear orders. Okay, so we're going to make a quick change here, and we'll just call this orders as the title. And then we're going to select name, and we need that order ID from gear orders underscore C. Should look like, if you're a Salesforce developer, it says select name and order ID underscore C from gear orders underscore C. Really simple, straightforward SOQL query. And if I build this and run it again, with any luck, we switch to our simulator, and hey, there are my gear orders. It understands now, because of my identity, who I am. We're still just talking to Salesforce APIs, though. This was kind of straightforward. We're talking to Salesforce. Now let's do that same thing, which is what we did with Flow and external services. Go talk to MuleSoft and pull these back. And for this, I'm going to cheat because there's way too much to type, but I do have the copy and paste on my side. So if we scroll down here, I'm just going to grab this one block of code and head back here and add this in, and then I'll walk you through what this does. Okay, so what this is basically saying is anytime somebody taps on an item in this list, I want you to do this. And what the do this is the first thing says is I'm going to call this web service. And it's saying I'm going to call, here's the URL that's deployed in MuleSoft, and then it's saying, and add in from whatever was tapped, the order ID. So it's going to construct a URL that says mule protected resource / order ID, because that's what the MuleSoft protected resource is expecting. And then I am going to hopefully not get killed by the SF user account manager thing. I am going to construct what is known as an authorization header. Okay? And this bearer token is what's going to get passed over. That token's actually my Salesforce access token. It's what identifies me as I'm talking to the Salesforce APIs. We're going to use that same thing to talk to these MuleSoft protected APIs. And using that introspection endpoint, what are you going to do with it?
We're going to validate if that token's valid or not.
And then tell who the user is?
Yep.
Okay. And we are also going to not forget to write our import statement. And because I forgot this part of the demo. And pray to the gods. Ashley, sacrifice a chicken. Okay, so having constructed our URL and our token, we set that in our authorization header and then send an HTTP request, and we're going to just show you the straight JSON because we've got 2 minutes, and that should do it. So with any luck, we have declaratively built out our login interface, added that to the mobile SDK and pointed to it, logged in with our telephone, used this token to talk to the services to get our gear orders, and now when I tap on this, this is going to use that same token to call MuleSoft and say, give me the status of my order, and we should see my user should be requesting this splitboard, and you can see that the demo didn't work right at the end. Give me a hug.
You need it.
And that's how simple it is to embarrass yourself on stage. So, Okay, with that, I don't think we're going to resurrect or debug this in 1 minute and 10 seconds. But what was supposed to happen was that was supposed to just show you some JSON that says your order has shipped, and it worked in practice. So we are happy to spend the remainder of the time asking questions. We did something really risky here. Hopefully it was entertaining, and hopefully you learned a bit. With that, what we'd like to do is point you at more stuff you can learn from. So there are 2 good trails out there. You can just search for identity in Trailhead and check out our full identity and access management trail, or identity for customers that'll walk you through this. The new mobile-first identity stuff is brand new in winter. Check that out. We've also got a brand new, just shipped on Friday, MuleSoft Basics trail. So if you just want to learn more about the MuleSoft platform, good to go. And when we ship slides out, you'll be able to read the release notes and doc stuff down at the bottom. But with that, any questions? And thank you very much. Appreciate you coming. And thanks, Ashley. This was great.